to get there.
But Republican Councilman Joseph Borelli says this was a dangerous decision and his colleagues know it.
We know what we're doing, and we know that what we're doing will create a more violent city, and yet we're doing it anyway.
Protesters who've been occupying a park across the street from City Hall blasting the cuts is not enough. Say they may stay there indefinitely. The city of Seattle has started to move on its occupied zone.
Following multiple shootings near the chop zone in the past 10 days, some of the barriers in the Seattle protest area are being removed. Crews with the city used heavy machinery to take out some of those barriers, but a short while after doing so, protesters put up their own makeshift barricades using things like couches, trash cans, and pieces of wood. Seattle PD says all of the barriers will eventually come down, but incrementally.
Fox's Jeff Paul reports there have been 4 shootings in or near the chop zone in the last week and a half, 2 of them fatal. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Colorado says it's looking into possible civil rights violations in the death of Elijah McClain last year after Aurora, Colorado police used a chokehold to subdue him during an arrest. Shot during a traffic stop on Monday, a Tulsa police sergeant, Craig Johnson, has died.
Craig's passing is a tremendous loss to our department.
Tulsa Police Chief Wendell Franklin, Sergeant Johnson's family chose to donate his organs, continuing his service to the community. His partner, who was also shot, is still critical but reported to be improving. The accused gunman to be charged with murder. America is listening to Fox News.
Oro magunom, matana lom suman kumin healthy and niceness. Karingin kumniki mit saye nakshi kesin zinginyan fashil klon ma sayinge. Inwangin takayani and wangin napashali, matana lom suman. Akayakom is mongle ashosh kamofal esu kumines be vitamin nasum. Karingin gupsifena in niceness in tia apashali. O about to kungom som na yen, tia kalmotom, infame, inwelum, eaknas na siyen kumatakyan. Inaksafye akola. Arela emergency contact list lom, aroy nash mo eaknas nas kaonlo in nom suman, nakarangin in jash mit mas in nom suman. Aro makuno minako ye aknas na siyen kuam in nasnas ain safe. Nanakmanas, matana in nom suman. Message saying e masin manyatlu, Micronesian Research Center at Choice Broadcasting.
The federal government making protection plans for national monuments over the upcoming holiday.
The Department of Homeland Security is deploying a special unit across the country to protect federal monuments and statues from possible vandalism over the 4th of July. Fox News got hold of a memo from acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf that says this coming holiday weekend has the potential for increased disruptive activity. Rapid deployment teams trained in crowd control will be sent to Portland, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. Other teams will be dispatched regionally so they can be flown into other areas within a few hours if unrest sparks up in other cities. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
President Trump tweeting late Tuesday that he will veto the defense authorization bill if an amendment to rename as many as 10 military bases that honor Confederate leaders is included in that bill. The Senate taking testimony Tuesday about the continuing coronavirus pandemic.
I would not be surprised if we go up to 100,000 a day if this does not turn around.
Appearing before a Senate committee, the nation's top infectious disease expert gave a dire prediction for an even greater coronavirus spike. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's most worried about people gathering without masks, being in large crowds, and not following guidelines.
We're going to continue to be in a lot of trouble, and there's going to be a lot of hurt if that does not stop.
Congress will not pass another coronavirus bill before they leave for the July 4th recess. They're expected to work on that legislation again at the end of July. Ray Bogan, Fox News.
Reuters reports new U.S. COVID-19 cases rose by more than 47,000 on Tuesday, the biggest one-day spike since the start of the pandemic. By a voice vote, the U.S. Senate has approved extending the deadline for applications to the Payroll Protection Program. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Where others put branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont, or call 646-1463.
Hofity, this is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is also brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We start that way every day, don't we, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we're going to start that way tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But day after tomorrow, we'll have to start that way in our respective homes, Real Joe Cruz.
This is true, sir.
Because the program will not be on Friday. It's going to be a real struggle for us.
True, sir.
Yeah, we're going to have to go 3, almost 4 days with no Tall Tales.
It is Independence Day, sir.
Yeah, we'll be back on the air 4 o'clock Monday afternoon. We're just going to have to tough it out, Real Joe Cruz. Okay, let's go straight to Jimmy Cutney. I usually start out here by bashing the Daily News for 2 reasons. 1, not running local editorials and running Gannett News Service boilerplate instead. And 2, always bashing Trump. So they've knocked it down by 50% today. It's still not a local editorial, but the title of it is "Why Trump is Right About Police Doing Too Much." Not very often that you see words on the editorial page of the Pacific Daily News saying that Trump is right. Yeah. Okay, and then we go to the Post editorial. Guam's 2020 election season is on. Who has the courage to tackle the tough issues? Well, we know who has the courage to tackle the tough issues, don't we, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
I'm too modest to pat myself on the back too hard, but we do tackle the tough issues here on Tall Tales, and we're going to continue to tackle the tough issues on Tall Tales. And if you are going to run for the legislature, and you're not going to tackle the tall as you were. If you're going to run for the legislature and you're not going to tackle the tough issues, then Tall Tales might tackle you. We don't need any more senators in the legislature who see as their job to see if they could and get unemployment funds. We already have somebody doing that job. We don't need any more do-nothing senators who are trying to capitalize on federal ex gratia payments. So here's how the editorial goes. Guam's 2020 election season is on. Who has the courage to tackle the tough issues? By the close of Government of Guam hours Tuesday, we should have seen the complete list of who's running for senator and congressional delegate this time around. Now, on the congressional delegate part, I still don't have it straight. I think there are 3 people running for the delegate, but are they all Democrats, Real Joe Cruz?
I don't know, sir.
Well, you got Michael St. Nicholas, the incumbent, Robert Underwood, who was the delegate before. He's trying to recapture the seat. And then you've got Will Castro, who's been in the legislature. I thought all 3 of them were Democrats.
So did I, sir, at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyhow, we'll work on that later. We'll try to get to the bottom of that one later on. Mayoral seats are up for grabs too, but the greatest impact as far as our votes are concerned rests on the senatorial and congressional race. We're in the midst of a midterm election. In normal times, midterm elections aren't as consequential in the eyes of voters who are drawn to the ballot box by their choice of gubernatorial candidates. These aren't normal terms. These aren't normal times in light of the pandemic, in other words, Wuhan virus. And we're likely to remain stuck in its tough economic environment for months, if not a year or longer. So our choice of 15 senators who deserve to be seated in the Guam legislature in January 2021 and our lone congressional delegate in Washington matter more now than before. Do we give a second chance to certain incumbents in the legislature who continue to pander to the government of Guam employees and retirees and treated private sector workers as second-rate taxpayers? Pander to government. Wouldn't that be those senators that introduced the 3 bills to provide double pay for government employees when 30,000 people weren't getting paid at all? And wouldn't it be Senator Pito Terlahi who wanted retirees and government employees to have a choice as to what health care they were going to get, even though it's going to cost $9 or $10 million more? Let me see here. Where was I? Do we keep our current congressional delegate, or do we want a returnee or a newcomer? I'd like to see a Republican, I guess, if that's possible. It doesn't look like there's a possibility this time around to get a Republican Washington delegate. Okay, so much is at stake at this time around. All we need to do is look at the shuttered businesses, dormant for months now, and the total stagnation of our tourism industry. What used to be hubs of our tourism industry remain eerily empty. The international airport echoes in emptiness. Boy, this reads almost like poetry, doesn't it? Eerily empty, echoes in emptiness. Tourists are nowhere to be seen in once bustling Tumum. We need to take care of our health and safety first, hence the support for continued quarantine of incoming travelers. But our community's ability to sustain jobs and provide a livelihood for tens of thousands on the labor force are at stake too. So our choices for the next set of elected officials are crucial, and these cannot be understated in this election. Did the current senators and delegate provide solutions that will help our island recover from the job losses and business closures stemming from COVID-19? Yeah, I think Senator Kelly Marsh Titano, boy, she really stepped into that one, by but with her bill to label trails and put up warning signs, like.
Oh, that was so timely, sir.
Yeah, it was, and it was so crucial, Yeah, the timing couldn't have been better. So, once again, did the current senators and delegates provide solutions that will help our island recover from job losses and business closures stemming from the Wuhan virus, other than Senator Kelly Marsh Titano and her Happy Trails bill? Did elected officials offer solutions that help the general public and not just the Gov Guam base? Did they see the big picture solutions? Did they get stuck in the details or distracted by less important or trivial matters? Did they cater to special interests and disregarded the general public sentiment or interest? Did their past election promises match up with their actions once they got elected? Our island has only two main economic engines, for decades. Tourism, which is in a state of paralysis, and overall government spending, including defense spending, which is okay for now, but slow down as the federal government continues to grapple with the economic toil this pandemic has caused across the nation. There could be tougher economic times ahead before it gets better. I'm going to change that sentence. There will be tougher economic times ahead before it gets better. You can bet on that. We need elected officials who trust us with the full picture of what's going on, minus the smoke screen and spin. We need elected officials who can tell us what they realistic can and can't do. Enough with the big, empty words. Not too much doubt about this one. Good editorial post. Good editorial. And we're going to be watching the benchmarks that you laid out there, Guam Daily Post, with respect to people who want to be senator. And my suspicion is that an awful lot that want to be senator, if you said, go in the other room with a piece of paper and a pencil and write one paragraph why you want to be senator. And you can't use the usual old cliches like I want to help the people. And I've always been about public service. Not that kind of stuff. I don't think anyone would do that and be really honest, because for so many people that run for senator and are senators right now, the answer would be, why do you want to be a senator? I want to be a senator. I really don't want to be a senator. I want to be a prince or a princess. But unfortunately, we don't elect prince or princess. And unfortunately, they're not hereditary. So the people kind of owe it to me to put it in the legislature so I could be a prince or princess. Okay, so much for Demi Ikotny. Let's go to the card. And this is what I have in the card. I have the two routines, Troy versus Janella and Tina versus Emergency. I have a new addition to the daily card, Louise Munya versus Unemployment. This is a genuine item on the card. This will add genuineness to the entire card. Then I've got the Archdiocese of Agana versus Aparon. I've got Matt McCall versus Tautau Guam. This is kind of a surprise. I've got Michelle Armenta versus James W. Moylan. I think you remember what the W stands for, Real Joe Cruz?
Woke.
Yes, sir. James Woke Moylan. And then I've got versus Patrick Lujan. Chadwick Moore versus the LGBT industrial complex. Now, I know I'm a day late on this. I had it on the card during Pride Month. I just didn't get to it. I didn't assign it a high enough priority, which makes me a bad person, right? That makes me a racist. I've got the legislature versus the shortfall. I've got Commissar DeNorcy versus the pirate. Angel Sablon versus the Treasury. Okay, so let's start out with Apeiron, as you were, the Archdiocese versus Apeiron. And there was a news release yesterday, front page, the lead story in the Daily News today was the fact that the Archdiocese of Agana will no longer remit an honorarium to former Archbishop Anthony Apeiron. So what had happened was that Apeiron, let me back up a second. Priests receive a stipend. I don't know exactly how much it is. Even Father Broyard, the disgraced priest who went to Minnesota, was getting something like $600 a month from the church. So the way the church works is that a priest is paid a stipend for his whole life. And of course, active priests at least are provided housing in the rectory. So when Apeiron left, he continued to draw his $1,500 a month. They call it honorarium here in the news release, but for all practical purposes, it's a salary. And they continued to pay the church, our church, the Archdiocese of Agana, continued to pay him that after the tribunal found him guilty of child sex abuse, a verdict which was sustained in effect by the Pope. And he still drew his $1,500. So finally, the Archdiocese has decided, we're not going to pay that guy $1,500. We're not going to pay him anymore. And the release goes on to say that that paying Apeiron $1,500 a month didn't sit very well with the survivors of the sexual misconduct, because we all know that there are something like 300 suits pending against the Archdiocese for criminal sexual conduct. And the church has had to declare a Chapter 11 bankruptcy in order to liquidate assets and pay the claimants in that bankruptcy case. So, in other words, the church is bankrupt, and they're still paying Apeiron $1,500 a month up until today. Stopped today. So I could see where that wouldn't sit very well with any of the victims, especially those 6 or 7 that alleged that Apeiron himself was the abuser. So it's interesting how this all finally played out, how Apeiron was going to sue people and, reacted with righteous indignation when he was accused at the very beginning. So that was the lead story in today's Daily News. Archdiocese versus Apeiron. And I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of that either. Okay, next item on the card is Matt McCall versus, as you were, I've got to go through the usuals here. I've got Troy versus Janella, and let's see, the count now is 46 days. Janella has gone 46 days without muting any microphones or cutting off any reporters in mid-sentence during one of the governor's press conferences. So maybe Janella is not going to be doing that anymore. But we're going to keep watching. We're going to keep an eye on it. And I feel very safe when I tell you that it's been 17 days since the Speaker of the Legislature Tina Rose Munya Barnes has found a danger to the public health or safety such that she found it necessary to suspend the public hearing requirement on bills coming onto the floor of the legislature. So she's done that 4 times here just recently. And I got to go back in my files because I remember one time when Talina Nelson wanted the speaker to do a waiver like that so she could actually move a bill forward that would pay money, would put money in the hands of someone other than government employees. And as I recall, Tina Rose Munya Barnes didn't see that this was sufficient enough emergency to do it, but that she was going to be off island and Talina was going to be acting speaker, so Talina could do it. Shows you how important this section of the law is and how unimportant we are. You know, the few avenues of transparency that we have seem to be easily disposed of. The governor did away with the open government law with her emergency powers. This government, from my vantage point, is the least transparent when it comes to sunshine law requests, FOIA requests. And Tina Rose, oftentimes, because she sees these emergencies, that she must have magic vision or a special pair of spectacles because she sees these dangers that no one else can see and suspends the public hearing requirement. One of the few ways that we have of not only being able to tell what our government's doing, but actually showing up at the public hearing and telling them what we want to see. So the good news is it's been 17 days since Tina detected that kind of severe emergency. New item on the card here, a new permanent item on the card, Senator Louise Borja Munya. And this all picks up off a PNC story titled Senator Munya Admits Application for Unemployment Benefits Was a Mistake. And then the caption under her picture, Senator Louise Borja says it was a genuine mistake that she filed for unemployment benefits. A genuine mistake. Now, let me just interrogate my producer here. Real Joe Cruz, have you ever made a mistake?
Many times, sir.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm making one right now.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Now, do you keep track of the mistakes that you make and characterize them as genuine and non-genuine?
No, I don't, sir.
When was the last time you made a non-genuine mistake?
I can't recall, sir.
I see. Probably most of yours are genuine, right?
More than likely, sir.
Yeah, you're just that kind. You're a pretty genuine kind of guy, right?
I try, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a genuine mistake. Yeah. And she said that, you know, she has this gig employment. So she lost all of her gig employment during the lockdown. And so she applied for this unemployment payment. And she didn't, when she stated her income, she didn't include the $55,307 that she, I'm not going to use the word earn, gets paid because she holds a seat in the legislature. So she thought she could get it, but then later on, somebody said, no, Louise, you're not employed. Maybe you don't do any work. But, you know, we see it down there at the legislature, at the public hearings, just kind of taking up space. But the fact that you're not doing any work does not mean that you're unemployed. So you're not entitled to that unemployment compensation. All right, let's take a short break and we'll come right back here. We'll make a genuine return.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Now, if you're online, it's not hard to find out what the rules are for any of these new programs that are set up to help people who lost their jobs or whose employment was diminished, their wages were diminished because they lost hours. I don't think it's setting the bar too high to expect someone who holds the position of senator to be able to do that kind of research and not make a mistake like this, if it was a mistake. And to say that, well, it was a genuine mistake, it doesn't really put much of a different shade of light on it, a genuine mistake. In other words, she wasn't trying to cheat anybody. I think that's what she means by it was a genuine mistake. So, lucky for her, PNC tried to help her because PNC wanted to put a little bit different spin on it. Here's what PNC said. A bigger question in all this. Now, what is all this? All this means Munya applying for something she's not eligible for and either getting caught or catching herself and then being outed in the media. That's what all this means. A bigger question in all this is how Munya's application information even reached the media. So the fact that Munya, couldn't figure out the rules and did something that she was clearly ineligible for, that's not the bigger question. The bigger question is, how did we find out about it? We shouldn't have been able to find out about that. This is embarrassing because it makes Munya look like she doesn't know what she's doing. A bigger question in all this is how Munya's application information even reached the media. Yeah, good job. This is my Habib. It's the reporter here. Why is this the bigger question? Because, when I looked at this yesterday, I think there's a pretty good argument that anyone who receives these ex gratia payments from the government, that ought to be public information. And that's the way we can keep chiselers out of the program. So it's not a bigger question at all. I think a bigger question, a bigger question, is where were you when this happened? Why weren't you the one to dig it up? Who was the real reporter that went out and dug this up? So I don't know what other programs Louise Munya has applied for. I don't know if she's got her CHIT, C-H-I-T. Do you know that word, Real Joe Cruz?
No, sir.
C-H-I-T, CHIT. In the Navy and the Marine Corps, everything is done with a CHIT.
I see.
In other words, it's a piece of paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder if Munya has her chit in for Section 8 housing, or I wonder if maybe she's eligible for a Quest card because she lost her gig employment, you know. Her income is way, way down. And then she goes on to explain that when I first applied, I was unclear on separating or including my other income. My real income. Just yesterday, I read some instructions and realized that I filed incorrectly. And it truly was a genuine mistake. There was another gem in here somewhere, too. So we're going to follow Senator Munya and her applications for benefits since she lost her gig employment, and she seems to offer up as a shield for, is it incompetence? The fact that it was genuine. So I wonder when she is in the legislature and she's dealing with bills, if her actions are always genuine. Okay, next item on the card, Matt McCall versus Tautau Guahan. I'm going to take this call here. I've got Tim Rohr on the line. Good afternoon, Tim.
Hey, Bob. Haven't been able to listen much to the show, so I don't know if you got around to the headlines about the Archdiocese versus Apron. Is that on your card today?
That was the first item on the card, and we went through it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you already covered it.
Well, I said I suspect that we probably are going to hear more about this. So if you want to tell us more, this is the time.
Okay, great. Sorry, I missed that first part. No, I just, I've had some Catholic friends that were concerned about the canon law aspect of that, and you might have already addressed it, that the Archdiocese was under pain of canon law not to continue that stipend to the Archbishop, former Archbishop, since he's still considered a bishop of the Archdiocese of Ganymed. So they can't cut him loose completely, so they had to pay that. But anyway, I'm very sure, knowing Archbishop Burns, even though I haven't spoken to him in quite a while, Archbishop Burns is a very careful man. I'm sure that he got some sort of a clearance from Rome relative to the bankruptcy, and so I don't think that anything is wrong here. I'm very sure Archbishop Burns got clearance from Rome to finally cut off Archbishop Apron, and it's only right, at this point, given that, we're in bankruptcy, church can't pay its bills, and we're paying the guy that caused all the problems. So I'm sure Rome gave him the go-ahead, and maybe someday, he's not here, but maybe someday when he comes back, or maybe his stand-in will fill in the news on the canon law aspect of it relative to addressing Catholics who, might have some questions on that.
Okay.
So
So Tim, you're saying that there may be a canon law dimension that would require the Archdiocese to continue to pay the $1,500 unless permission comes from the Holy See to stop it?
Exactly. There was, and actually when this first happened, when things started going south, and Apron was kicked out and denied his being able to come back to Guam. Well, he was found guilty anyway, but but it was very clear that he was not laicized, defrocked, and that so he still remained on the archdiocesan payroll, although at a greatly reduced amount. So canonically, the archdiocese was still responsible for his support since he was still a priest of the Archdiocese of Ganyea. But I'm very sure that Archbishop Burns, finally got leave from Rome to go beyond that canon in lieu of the bankruptcy and everything else that's going on right now. That's just my guess. I don't have any inside intel, but because I did get some questions about that from people, I thought, oh shoot, might as well put that out there. Maybe somebody from maybe Tony Diaz would be the guy to call. he's the communications guy. Let's get the scoop on this so we have the whole story. And the other question is what? People are asking, why didn't they do this before? I mean, why was he on the payroll? Well, the whole canon law dimension and the bankruptcy thing would explain that. But there's still a lot of bad blood out there thinking that, because we didn't do this before, people don't understand the canonical dimension. So they're thinking the archdiocese is hiding something. We're still paying Apron, and we don't even know where he's at. So there's a lot of bad blood towards the archdiocese, and now's their opportunity to say, well, look, we had to pay him, and now that we don't have to, now we're not. So it's a good opportunity for the archdiocese to really come clean if there is a clean story. I'd like to see it happen, just because there's so much bad blood, a lot of mistrust. Just an opportunity for the archdiocese to do the right thing and say what I just said there. We had to pay him until now. If that's the real story, then somebody from the Chancery should be calling in or put that in the newspaper or do something so we can clear this up and stop thinking, we were taking care of this guy all these years, because we were helping him hide. We had something to hide. That's the way it looks. Maybe I'll put that on a blog. Maybe it'll force somebody from the archdiocese to come out with the whole story. I don't think so, but that really is the whole matter right there. Why do we keep paying him? Why only now did we stop? And that just needs to be explained by somebody besides me calling in and just guessing.
Okay, Tim. Well, food for thought, certainly. If Tony Diaz, it's 888-824-8255. And if you want to call Tony Diaz, we'll stop what we're doing and we'll take your call. Thank you.
That'd be great. That'd be great if you did. Too bad I can't hear it, but I'll listen to the recording.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, Bob. You take care.
All right. Okay, Tim Rohr. And commenting on our first item on the card, the fact that the Archdiocese has finally stopped paying Archbishop Apparon $1,500 a month.
Did he say they don't know where he is?
Did Tim say that?
That's what I thought I heard. They don't know where he is. I was just thinking you could just go to the mailbox where he gets the check.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a surprise, I guess, to find that, that we've been paying him all this time when we owe everybody and his brother big bucks. Some of it for, garden variety debts, and some of it for really debts that make you feel really bad about these poor guys, these kids that suffered at the hands of Apparon and others. So it would be a fine thing for the church to clear the air on this and come forward and say, and like Tim says, tell us why only now is this being done. Okay, so much for Archbishop Apparon, as you were the Archdiocese versus Archbishop Apparon. And I'm going to go to Matt McCall versus Tautau Guam. And this is a letter to the editor of today's paper. Letter to the editor. Guam, you're screwed only because your leaders don't believe in you. A friend sent me an article from the Guam Daily Post last week with the article, with the comment, we're, four-letter word with an ED attached to the end. The word begins with F. I think you can figure it out. You're a pretty good speller, Real Joe Cruz.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It seems that with nearly half the Guam economy being based on tourism, the local economy is headed for a serious depression. Think depression, think Great Depression, maybe worse. The reason for this is that your leading families, Camacho, Calvo, etc., are very rich and simply taking turns at governing you while they own the basic means of wealth creation or extraction from you. Think grocery stores and insurance companies. They have no interest in the rapid growth of the economy, but will give you every reason they can't change anything. They have houses in the mainland in Europe where you can't see their wealth while they tell you to be proud of being Chamorro and poor. Guam has been looking through the wrong end of the telescope. You think of yourselves as a second-rate independence on the U.S., or even worse, all the while feigning pride in being Chamorro. Turn the telescope around and see that you should be and can be the Hong Kong of America. Now, I'm going to stop here for just a second and tell you that Carlton Skinner, the last appointed governor before the elected governor, Carlton Skinner, had this same idea, that Guam should be the Hong Kong of this part of the world. Even better yet, why don't you just decide to be Hong Kong? If your leaders bothered reading the international news, they would see that China is done with subtleties and is making bold moves to subjugate the citizens of Hong Kong. Hong Kongers are some of the smartest, hardworking, English-speaking, and richest people on earth. And now they need a place to go. 2/3 of all the foreign direct investment going into China each year goes through Hong Kong. The Hong Kong bankers and businessmen have been directing this fire hose of trillions of dollars over the last 30-odd years. They know all of the players in the world and have most of them on speed dial. They are scared and need a place to go. President Trump is talking about giving them visas. If Guam is smart, it will ask Trump to give a couple 100,000, yes, many green cards to people from Hong Kong if they come to Guam and set up their home and business on the island. A couple 100,000 folks from Hong Kong? A couple hundred, maybe.
You better Hong Kong believe it, sir.
Yeah. Give them citizenship if they stay 5 years and are not convicted of any crime. Tell them to bring their money and their know-how and their contacts and build America's new door to Asia. How? Guam has a lot of U.S. military. These are not U.S. defense installations. They are forward offensive bases facing Asia. Guam should be America's forward business base, America's door to Asia. You have more than 1 billion people within 2,500 miles. For crying out loud, you have one of the 8 hubs of United Airlines, and that's a big deal. These planes can carry more than tourists. They can carry bankers and stockbrokers and real estate developers, merchants and investors, people who create jobs and opportunity for your kids and who pay lots of taxes. Sit down with United and ask them what they need in the way of laws, fees, and regulations changes to make it work for them. You have a U.S. District Court for the rule of law, a good port, and high-speed internet. Change the tax code. You have the power to change your tax code. You could just adopt Hong Kong's. Why? Because it's a tax code for the people that want to get rich. The top rate is 17%, and it goes down from there. What you need to do is just to decide to get in the game. You can do it. You compete on the world stage if you put aside your fears and inhibitions. Yes, it's scary to invite in new competition instead of just staying home on the couch and saying that you can compete with anyone and Uncle Sam should send more money. But there's no place in the United States and territories that has the potential of Guam. You have to want it, though. You have to build a prosperity, and this is your great chance. Demand the opportunity from your leaders and fire them if they fail. Do not take excuses any longer. Otherwise, you better start gathering coconuts and work on your personal fishing skill, because really dark days are coming.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. They are open in Hagåtña for dine-in, takeout, and delivery services from Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Call them now at 479-2652 and get your mezcla fix today.
So that was a very provocative piece. I like it. I like it very much. I'm not saying that I'm buying it, but I am saying that I like it very much. If you'll recall, a few days ago, I had my own take on this, on the idea of what we should do. And at that time, I said, what we're doing, we're really not doing anything and pretending we're doing something. Because what we're doing is we're saying, well, you know, when the tourists come back and when we get back to normal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my prognostication is that's never going to happen. We're never going to get back to normal, normality. It's normality, Real Joe Cruz. What word do we never use on Tall Tales?
Normalcy?
Yeah, you just did it.
Yeah, see, I make mistakes all the time.
Was it a genuine mistake?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're forgiven. Yeah, so my analysis is that 5 years from now, there will be hotels with boards, plywood boards covering up the windows. Because we're not going to, if we continue on like we are, because we're not going to get back to normal. It's going to take, you know, even if we, on the day that we come along and we say, we are Wuhan virus free, there is a vaccine that every single person in the world has been subjected to. There is no more Wuhan virus. That doesn't mean that the Koreans and the Japanese are going to go back to their old habits and start coming back here. I explained it this way. When we, in 1969, when we really started Japanese tourism, the timing was perfect because salarymen and office ladies were finally at the point where they had enough income that they could save money to go overseas on a trip. And it's kind of like we were the first motel on Highway 66. We were the closest, least expensive overseas destination for Japanese. They started to come, and we built relationships, business partnerships, etc., over the years based on that start. But because of where we are now with the Wuhan virus, a lot of those linkages are not, they're either gone or they're not tight. So when folks in Japan and Korea finally get to the point where the health concerns, the Wuhan virus concerns, will let them travel, I don't think they're going to, almost habitually come back here like they've been doing. I suspect that, Thailand, Malaya, Hawaii, other places will be very attractive, and they're just not going to come back. And if they do, we're going to have to cut prices to lure them back. So I don't see that as happening. So my analysis was that this is not an approach at all. Sitting around with your eyes closed and your fingers crossed saying, boy, I hope we get back to normal soon. That is not a plan. So what I suggested was we stop and look and see what we've got and see what we could do with it. We got almost 10,000 empty hotel rooms. We've got a labor force that can make all of those hotels function. We have the American rule of law. We have the American judiciary here. We have an ideal location in some respects. As this guy points out, we're close to Asia. And we're the only place where the American flag flies where we can give what amounts to tax incentives to to companies and people that have to pay United States income tax. So you take all of that, all of those things, and ask yourself, what can we do with those assets that will help us make money, that will help us produce, provide jobs, create profits, etc.? I didn't know the answer, and I said my first idea was maybe we could set up for medical tourism. But, I thought about that a little bit. The equipment is too expensive, the competition is too stiff, etc. But I left it with the idea, we have all this stuff. Let's figure out some way to make use of it and not just sit around and say, boy, I hope we get back to normal soon. So Matt McCall has a good idea, make it easy for entrepreneurs from Hong Kong to come here and set up and try to get into what is often labeled as the financial services industry, which could provide an abundance of white-collar jobs for a lot of folks if we did it right. Hong Kong is really a miracle. The first time I went to Hong Kong in 1964, it was a sailor liberty town. American ships used to pull in there. There were a lot of businesses that catered to American sailors. Without going into a lot of the details, it was a really good place to have a suit or a pair of shoes made for an extremely low price, a tailor-made suit for a really affordable price, etc. And it was the kind of place that if you had $10 in your pocket, you felt like you were rich. And it's gone from that to one of the financial capitals of the world. It's got a skyline that's great, that's more interesting than New York. It has really thrived, and it did it. A couple of secrets. Anybody from China, from Red China, that could get into Hong Kong, it wasn't easy. They had to sneak in. Anybody who could stay, but he had to take care of himself. There wasn't any safety net. And second, any Hong Kong business that repatriated capital, in other words, a business located in Hong Kong that had investments in other countries, could bring capital from those other countries into Hong Kong without paying taxes on that. How did it work? It worked like a miracle. You go to Hong Kong today, you see what I mean. Let's break for our big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Close to a coronavirus vaccine. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. That question put to Dr. Joseph Hahn of the Centers for Disease Control on Tuesday.
We know that vaccines are being developed around the world, and FDA has received applications from a double-digit number of sponsors regarding vaccines. 4 vaccines have been approved for moving into clinical trials.
6 more are under consideration for the clinical testing phase, but that could take months. And Dr. Anthony Fauci of the Coronavirus Task Force adding,
there is no guarantee, and anyone who's been involved in vaccinology will tell you, that we will have a safe and effective vaccine, but we are cautiously optimistic.
Dr. Fauci adding the best advice is still to wear a mask and to socially distance. Former Vice President Joe Biden holding his first news conference in 3 months on Tuesday, blasting the administration for its coronavirus response.
Month after month, as other leaders in other countries took the necessary steps to get the virus under control, Donald Trump failed us.
A group of protesters in Portland, Oregon converged Tuesday night on police union headquarters. When they ignored orders to disperse, out came the tear gas. Portland City Council is scheduled to vote later today whether to extend the police union contract, which is about to run out. City Council in New York voting to cut nearly $1 billion from the NYPD.
That will include cutting the recruiting class for the NYPD that was supposed to start in July, and also cutting $300 million in overtime from the NYPD in the coming year.
Fox's Rick Leventhal, the council's Democrat majority leader, says the cuts are just a start. This is New York's murder rate increased by 55% last year. Asian stock markets closing Wednesday mixed after an up day on Wall Street on Tuesday. Dow futures, however, are down more than 125 points. America is listening to Fox News.
Half a day. This is Michelle from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Brothers but branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
A Tulsa, Oklahoma police sergeant has become the 114th U.S. law enforcement officer to be killed in the line of duty this year.
His sacrifice will not go unremembered.
Tulsa's police chief Wendell Franklin, Sergeant Craig Johnson, and his partner were both shot multiple times during a Monday morning traffic stop. His partner reported to be critical but improving. Congress learning more about reported bounties from the Russians on the lives of American service people in Afghanistan.
The White House has briefed small groups of lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats on reports that Russia paid bounties to the Taliban to target American service members.
Our focus was, what did the president know, and when did he know it?
House Democratic leader Steny Hoyer says a full intelligence briefing for all lawmakers is still required. Republicans say the intelligence reported about the alleged bounties is not conclusive and not verified.
You know, the evidence that I have seen and have heard shows no corroboration between what was posted in the New York Times article.
Still, Iowa Republican Joni Ernst says Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot be trusted. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
There's been a shakeup in the Trump campaign. Michael Glassner, who'd been organizing the Trump rallies, has been reassigned to legal affairs, and Jeff DeWitt, the Trump 2016 Arizona chair, joins the campaign as its chief operating officer. New York State prosecutors say they've reached an agreement to settle 2 sexual misconduct lawsuits on behalf of several women against Harvey Weinstein for $19 million. But attorneys for 6 women who've made accusations against Weinstein call the settlement a sellout that was unfair to the plaintiffs. Police in Hong Kong using water cannon to disperse activists protesting against Beijing's new national security law. A protester carrying a flag and calling for Hong Kong independence has become the first person to be arrested under that new law. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumont. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
If you've ever struggled for breath, you know what a scary experience it is. Whether you have asthma, emphysema, COPD, lung cancer, or another respiratory illness, the right medical treatment makes all the difference. GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic has the latest technology and respiratory equipment, staffed by world-class pulmonologists. Make an appointment today with GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic and start breathing easier. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
So, another great halftime show here on Tall Tales. We are now in the second and final half of Tall Tales. That means I've got a little over an hour to wrap up all of these exciting and exhilarating topics. Next item on the card is Michelle Armenta versus James W. Moylan. I have given him the middle initial W. It stands for woke. James Woke Moylan. We didn't know that he was woke until he became a social justice warrior when he introduced his hate crime bill, which I won't spend much time on now, but I will later on. So James Moylan had a Bill 338, which he alleges provides for transparency. So let's just stop for a second and ask what transparency means. I am now turning to my right and looking through a double pane window at the hairless top of the real Joe Cruz's head. And I am able to see the top of the real Joe Cruz's head because those two window panes are transparent.
Yes, sir.
Meaning I can see through them, right?
But can you see the map to the treasure on my head?
Yeah,
from there?
I can see it all. It's all there, real Joe Cruz, yeah. Now, if the real Joe Cruz had a shade that he could pull down, and he pulled the shade down, and I couldn't pull it up here, the only way that I could actually see the top of the real Joe Cruz's head would be to get up, go over there, go out that door, down the hall, and open this door and come in and take a gander at the real Joe Cruz's head. So because I could open that door, does that mean that there is transparency? No, that is not transparency, okay? That is not transparency. Transparency means you look at it and you can see it without any further activity on your part. The open government law is transparency, because if you wanted to see what the Board of Spelunkers is giving away down at the Port of Guam, you could go to one of their meetings and you could watch the whole meeting. That's transparency. Now, if I were to send a sunshine law request to the Board of Spelunkers at the port, that wouldn't be transparency. That would be like me getting up and going around and opening the door. So that's more like access than transparency. One step even removed from there would be this. Let's say that every day the real Joe Cruz would measure the length of the hair on his head. He's going to need a pretty precise ruler for that one. Like a micrometer, right, real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
So every day he measures the length of the hair on his head and he sends me that report. Is that transparency?
No.
Not even close to transparency. It's not even access. So to say that that's transparency shows that you really don't understand what the word transparency means. Well, James Moylan has introduced Bill 338-35, which mandates the governor or public health authority to report on actions taken during the emergency, such as seizing a medical facility or supplies from private entities. And then there's a quote, the Emergency Powers Act presently does not have any transparency language in place that requires the governor or public health authority to provide any information or report to the people, hence the importance of the legislation. Well, maybe so, but don't call it transparency, because it ain't transparency. So that's what Moylan's bill is about. So Michelle Armenta, the former president of the Vigilance Group, went down and testified on the hearing for 338 and actually proposed some transparency for the bill. And let's see what I got here. Moylan sent out a report. Members of the community shared their thoughts on Bill 338, inclusive of ways to improve transparency laws on Guam. Some of the comments included, and this is from Michelle Armenta, during these COVID-19 pandemic times, I have witnessed the rights of the people trampled upon by our elected officials who have asserted their alleged authority pursuant to Chapter 19 of Title 10 to shred the open government law and thereby sabotage not only the people's right to know, but one of the few ways in which the people are able to hold their government accountable. Compliance with open government law must never be considered as a mere bureaucracy. So Armenta's testimony would amend Chapter 19 to say you can't do away with the open government law. The open government law is transparency. So that's why I put this on the card, Michelle Armenta versus James Woke Moylan, who apparently doesn't understand what transparency is. Michelle Armenta, I think, does, because she was the president of the Vigilance Group, which did some pretty good work with the Sunshine Law. Michelle is running for senator, so perhaps when she is a senator, she can work the transparency angle to improve it, because it certainly needs some improvement. Okay, next I've got Senator Taitano versus Patrick Lujan. And this comes from an article in the Daily News from yesterday. Protehi Letexan, along with other community organizations, plans to protest ongoing Marine Corps construction that removed human remains and artifacts from their historic sites. It seems the only time the Department of Defense invokes the One Guam approach is the name of their own mission, said Maria Hernandez, Protege Latexan member. Guess where Maria Hernandez works? I'll give you a tip, Real Joe Cruz. Guess where Maria Hernandez works?
Yeah, she works at...
Yeah, she works for Senator...
With Michael Vivacqua.
Yeah, for Senator Titano. Yeah. So she's right out there, a frontliner for Protege Latexan. So I guess if she's on her own time, she can do whatever she wants. I think it's just interesting that she works for the perhaps #1 environmental wacko in the legislature, Senator Titano. And then the article goes on to say that Protege Latexan, public comment process is the problem. There are 3 sites nearby the project that are considered eligible for U.S. National Park Service National Register of Historic Places, which contain human remains, limestone, Lusong, and other historical remnants. All 3 sites underwent data recovery, which is an archaeological process conducted by Department of Defense associated officials to record, remove, and preserve what is deemed valuable material. Residents are now invited to submit public comment on the project through July 15. The process is the problem, according to Hernandez and 6 other speakers during a press conference Monday morning. Residents aren't informed of build-up construction or invited to comment until after historic sites are cleared. Prevented meaningful public information to be shared, Hernandez said. It prevented community involvement and comments and critique that could have made project changes to preserve the sites in place. Now, I go to the end of the article, and there's a subheading here, meeting planned with preservation officer. Groups plan to meet with State Historic Preservation Officer Patrick Lujan to press for further action, including increased oversight on military actions, build-up status reports, and a committee of local experts on military documents. Remember now, this is listed in the card as Titano versus Patrick Lujan. Hernandez goes on to say, it's his, meaning Patrick Lujan, it's his very job to ensure preservation, and we don't see that being done. We have always said we want our cultural sites to be preserved in place. How dare they? Real Joe Cruz. This extends beyond working with elected officials, though, according to Hernandez. The power really does live with the people, and not just the people in power, Hernandez said. So, Senator Titano's employee, Maria Hernandez, is pretty hard on the State Historical Preservation Officer, also known as the SHPO, saying that's his job. Apparently not satisfied with the job that Patrick Lujan is doing. So whatever happened to the SHPO that Patrick Lujan replaced? Do you remember her name, Real Joe Cruz?
Uggan, sir?
Yeah, Linda Uggan. Yeah. So there it is. Titano versus Patrick Lujan fighting over the Marine Corps' clearing of some land to build a new base. Okay, next item I have here. I'm late on this one. My bad. But it was a genuine mistake. This would be the only piece that I was going to do for Gay Pride Month. And here I am the day after. Well, it's still Gay Pride Month in the States, right? So maybe it still counts. And this is an article by someone named Chadwick Moore and it ran in an online site called Spectator. And the title is Happy Pride. It's time to topple the Stonewall myth. Gay rights have been subsumed by social Marxism. And Chadwick goes on to say, everything you know about gay history is a lie. The history of homosexuality is constantly in flux. Homosexuality is constant. Well, yeah, because it's only been, it was a little over a year ago that Guam became the first place under the American flag with an openly homosexual lieutenant governor, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that gives us bragging rights against all the 50 states. We beat you guys. There's no guarantee the stories we sell ourselves today will be true in 5 years. Naturally, transgender women of color hurled the first bricks at Stonewall, the uprising outside of a gay bar in 1969 that sparked the modern gay rights movement. Except they didn't. This little bit of historical revisionism appeared about 10 years ago and has been completely digested as fact by the entirety of the LGBT industrial complex. That's why I labeled this Chadwick Moore versus the LBGT industrial complex. And for one simple reason, LGBTQAI+ is no longer interested in gay individuals or equality, but has been transformed into yet another vehicle of social Marxism. Their specific target being to confuse and chip away at norms surrounding gender, sexuality, and relationships. Now, it's a long article, so I'll just kind of pick up some of the highlights here. Okay, then New York. A guy named Warren Wilhelm is the mayor of New York, who goes by the name of Bill de Blasio. He must have consulted with Senator Titano when he decided to enter politics. And his wife is quoted here. Here's a quote. Last year, when the mayor's wife said something about whitewashing Stonewall, I've never in 50 years heard of such thing. Stonewall was a white gay club. Next, they're going to say the founding fathers were black trannies and whiteface, Chadwick says. And we go on a little farther in this article here. And he says, it's not only gay history under assault, but the very definition of what it means to be gay. And LGBT conservatives and liberals are equally guilty. Neither appear to tolerate nuance very well. Both swallow whole cloth the belief that sexual preference is an immutable trait lurking about somewhere in the human genome. Now, this is orthodoxy for the LGBT gang. It's an immutable trait, like height, for instance. You know, I'm not tall because I imagined that I'd be tall. I'm not tall because I wanted to be tall. I'm tall because that's my genetic makeup. I carried the necessary genetic makeup to reach this towering height. It wasn't something I decided on. So let me read that sentence again. It's not gay history under assault, but the very definition of what it means to be gay. And LBG conservatives and liberals are equally guilty. Neither appear to tolerate nuance very well. Both swallow whole cloth the belief that sexual preference is an immutable trait lurking about somewhere in the human genome. But if you told Oscar Wilde, Quentin Crisp, Freddie Mercury, or Plato that being gay is no different from being black or a woman or having blue eyes, they would be confused. And he goes on to say, a few years back as a magazine writer, I noticed things started to change. He said, I traveled around the world, a nation in the world. I like gay history and profiling grisly old fags, etc. And he goes on talking about being a magazine writer. He was working he said that he worked for several different gay magazines, and then he said the largest gay magazines tended to not cover certain things that he thought should be covered. But he said, I kept my nose down, focused on my work, enjoyed a rich life with hilarious friends. I didn't notice the ugly war being waged around me until I became one of its casualties. Now, this guy, Chadwick Moore, is himself a homosexual. And if you read the whole article, he was at the Stonewall riots in 1969, so he knows what he's talking about. So he said, I kept my, and then he got a career writing for gay magazines. I kept my nose down, focused on my work, enjoyed a rich life with hilarious friends. I didn't notice the ugly war being waged around me until I became one of its casualties. When I began asking too many questions and calling out too many lies, my career in gay media was abruptly terminated. I still believe in truth. The LGBT movement is no longer about equal rights, but a civilization in flux. In just 50 years, homosexuals have gone from being oppressed to pedestaled, and now by many metrics to the top of the food chain in American society. They dominate culture. They outperform and out-earn their straight counterparts. They now can marry. Their struggle ended and left a vast, affluent, and well-oiled machine without direction or an operator. That apparatus fell into the hands of a new political force that has abandoned the individuals it purported to represent. The battle for equal rights is over, but the push for radical transformation has just begun. Unchecked, Big Gay is on a course to do irreparable damage to society at large. And this is from a guy that's been there and done that. And when he says, unchecked, Big Gay is on a course to do irreparable damage to society at large, we're seeing some of that damage right now. The country is, everything we thought we knew turns out to be something that we didn't know. That the country is in shambles. Public officials are not doing their duty. Mob rule has taken over 20 of our largest cities, and so on. Okay, going on to... Okay, let's break for the seventh inning stretch.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Business Jojo Purel Krishita ang tatag up kay Newsek. Kachela nane itaitawan siya kasantikan. Sa igmiyawani ang coronavirus sa sumawaj erkichay kupur kalangan o proposla itaitawan kasantikan katuwang kumuy sang mechikan impeach wano pero kumuy oter taxeli nan masan way pakon kan budan be ang sukaros. Kichay pachowan itawan kasantikan te kosonet karos mes kasantisang at chay son kawit kan. Kichay anane uya chay puka puen koti to besengin coronavirus. coronavirus. Kom agar silu ang mangichik da kawit kan. Karwaj ko tong komoy isang Micronesian Resource Center, one-stop shop o stations of choice broadcasting sa wasang U.S. Department of Interior, Office of Insular Affairs.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
So here we are. The title of this item on the card is The Legislature versus the Shortfall. And I have in front of me a page from the Government of Guam Consolidated Report General Fund that came out just a few days ago. And in one column, we have fiscal 2020 adopted revenues for the cumulative period. In other words, the amount of money they expected to collect during that period of time, during the first 5 months. And the amount they expected to collect was $558,163.76. Not so bad, right? And the amount actually collected was 47,000. As you were, $47,467,742 less, or an 8.5% less than what they had expected to collect. So we're not on target for our budget. We're quite a bit behind. We're 8.5% behind as of the date of this report. So what is our legislature doing about it? I have a story here from the Post. Okay. Got a phone call here. Jimmy! I was wondering if you were going to open up the Jimmy line there, Real Joe Cruz. Okay. The line is not open. It just got jimmied, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hi, Jimmy.
Oh, howdy. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, the problem with all this corruption, the Port 7, all the other corruption in Gulf Guam, it's all been covered in the Bible.
Okay.
The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money is the root of all evil. The love of money. And the reason all this corruption's going on in Gulf Guam is because they're greedy. They love money. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Jimmy's pronouncement. Jimmy and Jimmy's chicken. Thanks for calling in, both of you. That's quite a chicken, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You're probably a Gazzanero.
Jimmy the Gazzanero, yeah. Okay, so here's the action that the legislature has taken, given the fact that, we're 8.5% behind where we should be. You might think, well, it's time to revise the budget, or time to enact some legislation that would require the executive to cut costs. No, that's not quite it. Here's a story from the Post. 18 legislative staffers get raises. At least 18 senatorial staff and legislative employees received anywhere from 50 cents to $6.25 an hour in salary increases so far this year, including 3 given while Guam remains under Wuhan virus public safety state of emergency. So let's see, we had Talina Nelson gave somebody an hour, $1. Nelson also gave a legislative assistant a $2 an hour increase. Senator Will Castro gave a $6.25 an hour increase from $19.50 to $25.75 to his Chief of Administration and Operations, Joe Mesa. And that's interesting since Will Castro is finishing it up this time around. I wonder if he's worried that Joe Mesa would quit if he didn't give him the raise. Castro's office said Mesa, even with his promotion to Chief of Staff in addition to other duties previously assigned to him, has the lowest pay among senators' chiefs of staff. Well, that's comforting. Other senators currently pay their chiefs of staff $25.80 to $33.65 an hour. I read this and I'm wondering, chief of staff? Why does a senator need a chief of staff? One. Two, does anybody in a legislature understand what a chief of staff does? Probably not. So even if you have 6 or 7 employees, you need a chief of staff to coordinate all their activities when you're down there full-time yourself. The whole thing is, to me, just a gigantic boondoggle. And I think we found out during the Wuhan virus, when the legislature was on strike for so long, we really don't need a full-time legislature. Okay, next item on the card is Commissar DeNorcy versus the Pirate. I talked about this a little bit in the context of Semi Cotney the other day. Jeff's Pirates Cove owner, Jeffrey Pleadwell, on Wednesday said the mention of his restaurant in the media as being one of the places visited by airmen on restricted movement is hurting his business even more. Business has already been down 50% because of the Wuhan virus and weeks of limited operation, he said. And this has been reduced drastically recently as people thought the restaurant's employees have Wuhan virus because certain airmen visited the place. Pleadwell said he received a call from one of 3 airmen whom he talked to on June 12, telling him that none of them proved positive for Wuhan virus. While the visit to his restaurant happened 2 weeks ago, he said he found out only this week through the media, not the Department of Public Health and Social Services. We've been working together with public health ever since we heard of the incident. The employees are being tested. We follow the CDC guidelines. Anyone leery of dining in may order to go. Pleadwell said he thinks it's very difficult to detect who has the virus, and many around us may or most likely may not have it. Once his restaurant was in the news because of the airman's visit, Pleadwell said his staff got nasty calls from people. We are in the same situation as all other business. We have no way of detecting the virus. No one does. We actually have one of the safest venues with totally open air environment and plenty of room for distancing. Public health officials are reaching out to 30 establishments, including restaurants they believe airmen deployed to Anderson Air Force Base visited despite having restrictions on the movement. The airmen were housed at Guam Reef when they arrived May 25 and were supposed to limit their movements to work in the hotel, etc. So if you take this at face value, the Director of Public Health and Social Services, Commissar Linda DeNorcy, published a notice that people who tested positive for the virus or people who may have tested positive for the virus, visited Pirates Cove. And when that hit the papers, Jeff's business, which was already suffering, took another hard hit. although it appears from this news article that there was no danger. Now, one would have thought that the Department of Public Health could have tested the people that visited Pirates Cove, and if they were negative, then Jeff could have been spared. I have to admit a certain bias in favor of Pirates Cove. Pirates Cove has been around forever. Jeff Pleadwell has done an outstanding job of managing that place. It's a great place to go on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, or probably any other time if you're not, if you can swing it with your job. It's on the beach. I don't know how many people Jeff and his employees have saved from drowning because they keep a lookout on the ocean there, which is kind of treacherous, and they're always pulling people out of the drink. It is open air. You get plenty of room for social distancing, etc. And to put this unvarnished, unqualified report in the paper when every business is already having enough tough time, that's why I labeled this item on the card, Commissar DeNorcy versus the Pirate. Okay, next item on the card, as you were, Angel Sablon versus the Treasury. And this is from KOAM. Chances are your village mayor is getting paid an extra 15% in Wuhan virus differential pay on top of a $75,000 a year salary. You know how many days the mayors, how many paychecks the mayors missed during the Wuhan virus, Real Joe Cruz?
12, sir.
None.
None?
None. They drew their checks every single day.
No, they have to mayor every day, sir.
Yeah, but what exactly does a mayor have to do? How do you know that a mayor's doing his job? You don't.
He's going around and honking his horn and
waving at people and going to the dead and whatever. Yeah, so you don't know if a mayor's doing his job or not. You know when he's not doing it. In Jigo, we certainly know when he's not doing his job. So $75,000 is not enough. Another 15% on top of that. All but 5 of Guam's village mayors received the bump for their work during the pandemic. Mayor's Council Executive Director Angel Sablon, who knocks down $98,000 himself, confirms mayors who are getting the compensation have been getting it since April, and they're still earning it today. Unless they tell me they don't want to receive it anymore, they're still receiving it, Sablon said. Not all the mayors are getting it. Some opted not to receive it. But for the most part, most of them are getting it. Okay, here's the name of the 5 that are not taking the 15%. Agatna Mayor John Cruz, Moleso Mayor Ernest Chargaloff, Inlahan Mayor Doris Lohan, Orda Chalanpago Mayor Jesse Gogui, PT Mayor Jesse Alec. As far as I'm concerned, these are the only 5 that are fit for re-election. The other 5 ought to go find, the other 14 ought to go find some other line of work. Every other mayor and vice mayor has been getting the Wuhan virus differential pay for months. We were given the option to accept the pay or not, and I did not accept the pay. This is from the PD mayor. I can't answer for the others that accepted the pay. I think I'm paid sufficiently. This is the mayor of PD, Jesse Alec. He thinks $75,000 is enough. Why go for more? Sablon could not provide a dollar amount on the cost of Wuhan virus pay for mayors and vice mayors. Mayor staffers also receive the Wuhan virus differential pay. Mayors and vice mayors are getting Category 2 Wuhan virus pay, 15% of their hourly rate on top of their salaries. And on KOAM's Containing COVID show, Sablon said they deserve it. Okay, my bad. I should have never put this on the calendar. I should have never put this on the card. Let me repeat the key words here. Sablon, Angel Sablon, said they deserve it. End of story, right, Real Joe Cruz? With a pronouncement like that, How dare I? And then Sablon says, I don't blame them. They're out there working just as hard as anybody else. Well, fine, that's what they're supposed to do. They're doing the same work they always do. And they're supposed to work just as hard as anybody else does. Even as hard as those that are on the way front line. So Sablon isn't even using they're frontliners. He's not even using that excuse. He's just saying they're working hard. Do you, Real Joe Cruz, do you expect mayors to do anything but work hard? You live in Petey, right?
No, sir.
Ganya Heights, right?
Yes.
Do you expect your mayor to work hard?
Oh, they always work hard up there, yeah.
Yeah. So if a new mayor were elected, would you swing by his office and say, just work a little bit, you don't have to work hard? Would that be your expectation?
No.
No. Is it outrageous? Is it really unreasonable to expect a mayor to work hard?
No, that's what most of them say they're going to do when they're running for mayor.
I'm going to really work hard for the village.
The people, yeah, the village.
For the people, yeah. And then Sablon added, there is a risk to this reward. They were there out front. They were leading. Oh, boy. Can I have some dramatic music, Real Joe Cruz? Probably more like martial music. Heroic music. I don't blame them, Sablon said. They're out there working just as hard as anybody else, even as hard as those that are on the way front line. Sablon added, there's a risk to this reward. They were there out front. They were leading their troops. They were leading their staff. They don't even know that people they're meeting or working with have Wuhan or not. So the executive order did not deny them from getting it. So that's great.
Dangerous, sir.
Yeah, Angel Sablon probably should have been a football coach. Can you imagine him giving the halftime speech?
Oh, yeah.
They were there out front. They were leading their troops. They were leading their staff. Wow. They're meeting or working with COVID or not. So the executive order did not deny them from getting it. Well, that's a strange way of putting it. They deserve it because the executive order didn't deny them from getting it. Mayors are the only elected officials who received and are receiving Wuhan virus pay. Well, it's because the other elected officials don't have cheerleaders like Angel Sablon out there leading.
Well, that's what they pay him the big bucks for, sir.
I guess so, for being the cheerleader for the mayors. And, while we're talking about it, why do we have a mayor's council? I think that's about as a mayor's council is about as useful as the mammary glands on a boar. Mayors are village officials. As a general principle, you wouldn't expect to see your mayor anywhere else but in your village, right? He ought to spend a lot of time on the roads. In our village, we've got a forest growing on the shoulders of the road. You can't even see the guardrails on Marine Corps Drive because the weeds are so high. Okay, I'll tell you what here. I'm going to go into the home stretch. And you know what I'm going to do in the home stretch, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to chat with another Joe.
All right.
Nothing against you.
No problem, sir.
You're a good Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're a good Joe. But I'm going to chat with another Joe during the home stretch.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumon or call 646-1463.
Gawa ko business ra po dari sukseven yo sukusiker COVID-19 SWS. SWS fiare semua coronavirus ira pada sibo sabuera ria warau fitne virats seria kyo sabtsa ni wats. Sibo sabuera ria sibo puri live pot water kisi boots. Me fakuret sea at sibo rosits ni kyo sidesin ikapesepes serimon. Sibo feriwisats arabi kisi ratsudan semua coronavirus. Klitzkie porraus kekeri urigat Esiresin afito seriatsu office Micronesian Resource Center Eco Radio Station not choice broadcasting mewa U.S. Department of Interior Office of Insular Affairs.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch on Tall Tales. That means I got about 9 more minutes till we come to the end of another perfect day here on Tall Tales. And to take me down that home stretch, I will rely on the able assistance of another Joe. Hello, another Joe.
Yeah, Bob, maybe not the whole night, if I don't stretch, but some of it. So, the question is, when the government of Guam starts thinking, well, we're not going to have the revenue that we used to have, whether it be this year or next, so we're going to have to start putting people on leave or other means of reducing the expenditure and overhead budget and employees and however they, look at it. Are they going to start with GVB, GITA, or are these people getting that extra pay for was it hazardous pay or whatever they call it? Have you had any word on that, Uncle Bob?
I don't think so, because the way Byrne interpreted, everybody in the government of Guam was working, and even if they were staying at home, and the agencies weren't closed. So I don't think anybody at GITA or these other agencies is drawing the extra pay.
But and then you came up with some pretty good ideas in your program about alternative industries or services that we can provide here in Guam. Why have you heard any ideas coming out of GITA or GVB?
Nothing. No, and that's why I said, this is what passes for planning, sitting around with our fingers crossed, mumbling the mantra when things get back to normal.
I'm wondering if these should be some of the issues on the table when they start having senatorial debates. Any ideas that the candidates have about keeping these agencies useful or downsizing. What do you think of co-op?
That's a good idea. And if you understand what campaigning is like, every day is a debate for a candidate, because he's out there attempting to persuade people that as a senator, excuse me, boy, did I screw up there. Every day is a debate for a candidate because they are out there every day trying to persuade the public that they can do more for the island than the other 14 people that are after that same seat. So I'm looking for candidates that are not waiting around for some kind of a forum, but insert themselves into the public consciousness saying, this is what I want to do. And I haven't seen it yet. This is the sleepiest campaign that I've ever seen. You know, if you are a challenger and you don't have a lot of name ID, you should have started last year if you really wanted to be a senator. And you should have been coming up with ideas and publicizing your ideas instead of looking around and trying to figure out who's going to put up your signs, which I'm afraid is what most of them think campaigning is all about.
Okay, Kebab. So that's pretty good. It's a pretty good message there for the international Tall Tales Nation listening audience there. Thanks a lot, Kebab, for your time, and just keep listening.
Nice talking to you, another Joe. So that was another Joe, and then I noticed this other call somehow jimmied the controls on the phone to get a second ride on the Ferris wheel. Good afternoon again, Jimmy.
Oh, howdy. No, very quick. You asked the question. What do mayors do?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you. One of the mayors is doing jail time, and another mayor should be doing jail time. I'm speaking of the mayor of Jonia and the mayor of Agate.
Okay. I guess you're not a fan of the mayor of Agate, huh?
Well, who is?
I don't know anything about the mayor of Agate. I know too much about the mayor of Jigo.
Yeah. And I wasn't talking about the mayor of Jigo. I was talking about the mayor of Jonia.
I understand that. And I said I don't know anything about the mayor of Agate, but I know too much about the mayor of Jigo because that's where I live.
Well, I guess that's between you and the mayor.
I guess so.
None of my business.
Okay, Jimmy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, so I got about 4 more minutes here. Next item on the card is BLM versus the facts, but just let me cruise around the Facebook here and see what I got. Lynn McAfee usually has some pretty profound things to say, and this is what she's saying here. The only thing fair in life is that life treats no man fairly, but each should have the opportunity to give it their all, where their only limits are their strength and endurance to succeed. You are not guaranteed the right to succeed, only the right to pursue success. Here's the nut kicker. You also have the right to fail, to accept responsibility for your success and failure equally. Value your failures because you are wiser for them. A successful man will fail 1,000 times and pick himself up 1,001 times. That's pretty profound, Lynn, and I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, in certain quarters of society nowadays, what you just said would be labeled hate speech. Because we all know that the government is supposed to take care of all of us, provided that we're part of the oppressed. If we're the oppressors, then we're on our own. But if we're part of the oppressed, it's the government's job. Let me see what else I've got here. Good, very good, Lynn McAfee. Richard V. Leone says the mayor's council, Angel Sublime, can't deal with the stray dogs or abandoned vehicles, and the Wuhan virus scam still exists. Yeah, they're still drawing an extra 15%. Rico Blancaflor chimes in about Jeff's Pirates Cove. Love the food and service at Jeff's Pirates Cove. New malicious, a new word. Okay, well, there we are. The end of another perfect day here on Tall Tales. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to close out the week tomorrow. We don't even get to come to work on Friday. So we'll see you all tomorrow. Adios.